Hey guys, here's an update. I apologize for not having one a little sooner, but I'm kind of saving my pennies for everything I need yet, which I'll get to here. Since the last video, we have added some things. The coolant system has been resolved. Scott from American Speed showed me a trick. The crossover steam pipe vent was leaking under the intake that had cracked right at the Y here in the front under the intake. I didn't feel like messing with it, so I took it apart and he showed me a little trick that you can drill and tap out the cylinder heads right here to 1/8 inch NPT, and that's what I did, and I used some brass fittings. So here's a little diagram. Hopefully you can make all this out. So here's as the engine sits. What it is there are 2-inch double male-ended straight sections. This is a 1/8 inch NPT 90-degree barb, and then on this side there's a T for 1/8 inch NPT. Everything's 1/8 inch NPT. So we have four standoffs. A 90 off of this one, a T with a 90 on this side and a straight on this side, and then all these red lines are the hose I used to connect the coolant. A 90, a straight, a T, a straight 90, or a straight T and a 90, and then this goes over into my tank, which is over here. Actually, I have a 90 here on this side and a straight, but anyway, it comes up into here, over, and into my coolant tank. The tank I ended up using overflow bottles from a Volvo 740 Turbo, and then this had previously all been cut out because I was going to put the turbo over here, but then I ended up going with it over here. So this was just a section of like a Ranger door skin. I went over to a friend's. They were getting ready to scrap a Ranger and just started skinning. In fact, there's more of it over there, door and roof sections. I've been using a lot of that. It comes in handy and it's cheap. So aside from the coolant stuff, we have, what else? 2-gauge battery wires. This one here is for the starter battery, or alternator battery, positive terminal here. I need to get a plug for this. I'm just going to use the field wire and connect that straight to here. This is for my coolant temp sensor, which I was going to put in the plug down in the cylinder head right there. But the bung on the end of the sensor here is a little too long and it doesn't seat in the head. So I don't know if I can get an adapter for this. I'm going to have to look. And then this is going to be for my vent, oil breather vent. And then there's a nice big 2-gauge wire here running back. I ran this under the car to a trunk, or for a trunk mount battery setup. I just went through a factory grommet. It's a little dark. The factory grommet, and then this comes over. I was originally going to put the battery over here. I made a tray out of some bed frames. It came out great in a hold down. I used real thick stuff. This is 3/16 or quarter. And I welded some bolts to the floor with some nuts, but then I ended up getting the cage and it's going to be in the way. So I'll probably move it a little further back that way, but I'm using a 900 or 950 cold cranking amp RV battery from when I was having issues with voltage and Megasquirt and MSD. I just went with a giant battery and it was ridiculously expensive. So speaking of cage, I ended up getting a cage from S&W Race Cars here in Pennsylvania. Made the road trip out. This is just kind of sitting in there mocked up. My garage doesn't have a 220 volt service line coming in, and I can't weld. This is 134 thousandths wall thickness material, mild steel. My welder doesn't get hot enough. The TIG gets hot enough, but only on the main outlet over there on the wall, and you can only run it for like 30 seconds and it pops. My TIG is 110 or 220, which we'll get to. That's new. I got some gauges mocked up here. I made a little gauge pod, made a little center thing, needs glued in. and everything's going to get put up over there. I think I'm going to use elastic bungee straps to hold it up under the dash and tuck the wiring. That way if I need to get to the Megasquirt box to add anything to it or get to the MSD box, I can still get to it. I'm going to run some carpet in here, black carpet. Once the cage is put in, I'll put just carpet in. And here's more of the sheet metal from the Ranger that I skinned, blocking that off, making a firewall since the battery is going to be in the trunk. I'm going to take the car up to my brother's garage, I guess the week after New Year's, and he has a nice big welder up there and the power to do it. And we're going to try and get that all taken care of. I did cut the holes are cut in the floor. You have to move that that fuel line over there before you cut. And then the cage will drop down through the floor. So that's about all the car updates. Oh, well, we have the seat over here. I don't know if I showed this before or not. These are the factory Mustang seat rails, and they're not hooked up at the moment. They do work. And all I did was bolt the rails to the floor, just the rails by themselves without being seat bolted on or anything, and then marked and cut a piece of bed frame and welded it in the front here and the front and the rear while it was bolted to the floor, and it turned out great. Welded all that together and then just transferred measurements from the seat holes, this is a Jazz plastic seat, to the rails, and that mounted great. And it's a perfect fit because it was all welded together while it was bolted to the floor. That was real simple, and everything still works. Well, actually it only goes back so far, but I can notch these out to allow this to work. As far as the welders go, these are brand new. My dad and I put our money together and figured we're doing so much metal fab stuff now and trying to build stuff and put it together. We had been borrowing a welder from a friend and a bottle from a friend, which was great, but when you need it and you don't have it, it's kind of a pain. So we took a road trip out to Eastwood in Pennsylvania here. I believe they're in Pottstown. It's about an hour from us. We drove out and picked this up. Got the TIG 200. This does 110 and 220 with the big nasty plug on it. It works wonderful. It does great work. The problem is, since we don't have the 220 line, I can't really see exactly how well it works. And then we got the MiG 135. We had to get the 135 again because this one is 110. When you step it up, I believe the MiG 175, I think it is, that one's 220 only. So, but we got this cart, put the cart together, everything rolls around real nice, nice new helmet, and got a bottle from a local gas supplier. And this stuff comes in so handy. And what else? We got a new heater for the garage, since the kerosene one likes to stink and reek and all that. And then made a little roll around cart, welded that up. That was a little project. It works on a 20-pound bottle, 60,000 BTU. It warms up this garage pretty decently. It takes it from upper 20s, mid 20s to 50 in about 20 minutes. Works pretty good, 8 hours run time. So, that's really about all the updates I have for you. I wish I had more, but I'm saving my pennies. I have my transmission sitting over there, a Turbo 400, ready to go in. I need a torque converter yet, a flex plate and bolts, the crank adapter for the back of the LS crank to work with the small block Chevy converter. And I need to measure for a drive shaft. I need to pick up a Turbo 400 yoke. And if I stick with this shifter, I need a shifter cable. This shifter didn't have one, and the bracket for the transmission. Or I'll just get a Winters shifter or something like that. But that's about it. And as I get more stuff, hopefully, I mean, my Christmas list is typical, you know, full of car parts. We'll see what happens. And as I get stuff, I'll update you guys. So there you go. Talk to you soon.